Welcome back to a video, everyone. Today I wanted to kind of talk about what if we had Blackwing support right here, right now, within the next 3 months, or at the end of the year. Because it has been 2.5, 2-ish years since we've gotten any support for Blackwings. So with having 2 years of experience, 2.5 really, of experience with playing Blackwings since the month that Darkwing Blast came out, is when I started playing Blackwings and going to locals, playing Master Duel, playing between friends, and then getting into a more competitive local scene. I figured I have enough experience to be able to talk about what type of support I believe Blackwing should have. And I want this to be interactive, so let me know in the comments down below what you think about this support. Do you believe that it truly will help, or even comment some of your own ideas of what, Blackwings could use as support? Because as I see right now, I believe that every single deck should have a strong core engine that has a specific game plan while also having a strong enough extra deck to be able to compete in modern day Yu-Gi-Oh! Now I know support is coming out for everyone, so it's much different, and every single deck is going to have that sort of support. And since Blackwings, I believe, have fallen out of even Rogue meta, it's more just like it is a Rogue deck, but it's not in like competitive Rogue meta. I believe a lot can definitely happen for this deck. But to start off, I kind of want to go into the history of the game plan of Blackwings and where it started. To start, Blackwings really started in Edison format back in 2010 when support came out in Absolute Power, something like that. It was when the Red Dragon Archfiend support came out with a Scar Red Dragon Archfiend. And that's when Black Whirlwind came out. That's when a lot of the normal summons like Gale, Bora, Shura, the Raven, and Armor Master came out. That's when Vayu came out. And the whole point of the deck was to normal Shura. You always wanted to see Shura in your hand, and wait until they battled for you to special out with Blackwing from the deck. Or if you went second, you would want Shura to be able to attack into a monster, special summon another monster out, and then synchro summon. It's either you start off with Shura or you start off with Whirlwind, where Whirlwind plus any Blackwing monster would search you Gale, or the Northern Wind, or even Bora if you needed it. And then you go into Armor Master, and then there was Armed Wing as well. So that was typically the game plan of Blackwings, is to swarm the field. And if you control the Blackwing, you could special a Blackwing. And then Vayu would always be follow-up for next turn. But with modern day Yu-Gi-Oh, things have changed a lot. It's not turn 2 or 3 is when you make a play. It's turn 1 where you have to explode with as much bodies on the field as possible and enough interruptions to be able to disrupt your opponent from playing. It's a turn 1 game now, and that will only get worse as things go on with power creep. And Blackwings can definitely put up enough on the board to be able to disrupt an opponent. However, I do believe the core set of Blackwings has been lost. We don't use the Assault support that came out in 2015, as that is pretty much irrelevant, and the deck focuses more on even-numbered cards like level 6, level 8, level 10, and sometimes even level 12s, while going into some odd ranked with the Raid Raptors of level 5 and level 7, but you get to those while using your level 4 monsters. Blackwings have now shifted its view of how to play, or its game plan, from special summoning out itself, or other synchro monsters, or other versions of Blackwings onto the field by having a specific name, or having the Blackwing name, to now having as many normal summons as possible with, for example, Samoon, Sudri, with Samoon giving you Whirlwind and giving you an additional normal summon. So with that, I believe that we should kind of go back to our roots of having those special summonable cards. Modern day Blackwings have barely any monsters that special summon each other out because of having a name. The only ones that do is Vada, Harmattan, and Bora, or Chris, and those are really anything that we have for modern day Blackwing setups. And most of the time, pure synchro builds don't use Bora, they don't use Chris, and they'll just have Harmattan out as an extra monster to be able to go into plays or extend, or have Vada continue through with Zephyros in the graveyard. So for this, I do believe that having more Blackwings as special out and extenders, because we have a Blackwing on the field, will greatly benefit the deck in being able to play through more interruption no matter what. So, with that, I have proposed new variants of cards that already exist. I believe with examples like Heroes, or Heroes is really it. You can with Heroes and then the Ishizu cards and all that sort of stuff, is that you can make remakes of cards. Things that will give Blackwings back its personality of having Gale and Bora in the deck, and not so reliant on Black Whirlwind, but still use it as a card when it needs to. So, something I suggest is that we make a remake of Gale, still having the same exact stats, still level 3, and still a tuner, where you can special summon this card if you control a Blackwing of a different name, and that is not a once per turn, still giving that Gale personality in its old variant of itself. But I believe with a more modern day take, we can definitely use this, and this effect should be applied for the new Gale. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can special a level 4 or lower Blackwing from deck or graveyard, giving yourself follow-up if you have Gale in hand, or if you were to special Gale by other methods, making this card a starter as well as an extender. And having the second effect of once per turn, you can half the attack of all monsters on your opponent's field for the rest of the turn. However, I wanted to give Gale a dual effect, where you can use either or, and only once, or one of those effects that turn, giving it a hard duality effect like Zonda. Something I've noticed in newer Blackwing or more modern Blackwing cards is that Konami likes to give Blackwings dual effects, where one of them can be a board breaker, an extender, as well as a starter. So I wanted to kind of follow that. For example, Sudri is a normal summon starter. If it's normal summon, you can add anything that mentions Blackwing Dragon, right? But you can also tribute another monster on your field to special a level 2 tuner token, where that is your extender, but it has a cost, where you are locked into synchros for the turn. Or Zonda, where you can, if this card is normal or special summoned, you can target a card your opponent controls and return it to the hand. But if it's in the graveyard, you can banish it for cost of special level 5 or higher Blackwing, but burn for its damage. Those are effects that are dual effects or have an extender effect. that is kind of what I had the idea for with these cards. Um, and then for another remake, I was thinking of a remake of Bora, where you can special this card if you control a Blackwing monster with a different name or Blackwing Dragon. This makes the new Bora be able to be searchable by Sudri to have an extender of Sudri when you already have Vada or Shamal in hand. And then having a second effect where you can send a Blackwing monster from deck to grave, level modulate this card 1 through 5. If you do, this card can also be treated as a tuner. I wanted to be able to give this Bora a way to still interact with Blackwing Dragon, but also keep it as an extender. This is more of an extender than it is a starter, as with something like Gale, I'm sure, like, I don't want there to be too many starters, but not enough extenders. So Bora was going to be a balance of Gale for starter to extender ratio. And I didn't want to have Blackwings that have like 3 of 1 card starters, like 12 of them like fucking Ryziel. Even though that's probably what's going to happen with support anyways. But to continue with the Bora remake, if this card is sent to the graveyard, burn for the highest attack monster on the field of your choice if tied. I wanted to give Blackwings an additional way to have game. And what we do is we burn our opponent a lot, or burn ourselves. I believe that we have enough cards, or modern day cards, that will burn us, and I'm sure that something like Gale, the remake of Gale, could burn for the attack of the monster that is summoned, just to kind of give it that old classic Blackwing feel. Or, I mean, it's kind of more of a modern day thing. But regardless, that's very small and doesn't matter to us. So with the Bora remake, what I had in mind was I wanted a extender that was searchable by Sudri that wasn't Vada, as well as another tuner card that would be searchable by Sudri. I figured I would give Bora a duality effect between it being a tuner and a non-tuner if you were to activate its effect, just so you can extend your plays more if you were to have something like Zonda and Bora, and Zonda was in grave in some way, shape, or form, where you could send Zonda or banish Zonda, get out something like Simoon, and then you could special Bora and you can level modulate its own card. Bora is also kind of like a semi-starter, where you can send a Blackwing from deck to grave as cost to then level modulate the card. I kind of want to give it like a Doom Prism / Bone Archfiend effect, where the point of the card is to level modulate itself and to be treated as a tuner as well as a non-tuner, so give it that, both effects. Then have Bora be special summonable with Blackwing Dragon and a Blackwing monster with a different name. So yeah. So something small you can do with Bora is normal summon Bora, activate Bora's effect to send Zonda as cost to level modulate it to become like level 1. And then Zonda can banish itself to special Kunai, where then you can go into Borea Storm. I figured that Blackwings have a lot of continuous spells that they will use, so I wanted to give Blackwings either another continuous spell or a field spell, preferably a field spell, because honestly I think a field spell would be really, really nice for this deck. And something I kind of came up with was, on activation, add a Blackwing card or a card that mentions Blackwing in its text from deck to hand, then discard a card. Right? Nothing's cost, and it's immediately as you play it. I then gave it another effect where if your opponent activates a card or effect while Blackwing Dragon is on the field, in the graveyard, or in the banishment, shuffle it back into the extra deck and negate the activation. One idea I had for a second effect, I do believe the first should be adding a card then discarding, so you can add something like Sudri as a starter, or even Simoon, to then send like an extra card away, like Zonda, Zephyros, any other brick like Kunai, or Shamal if you needed, something like that, and just to be able to allow Blackwings to have more versatility, especially with extending, because having cards like Zonda and Zephyros or Shamal in the hand extremely hurts the deck, because those are cards you want to keep in the deck or already be in the graveyard. And it stops cards like Sudri from being able to be normal summoned, because you have to normal summon your Zephyros or your Zonda, which can allow you to not be able to go and get your Shamal, which gets you your Black Feather Whirlwind, which extends the deck heavily and gives it so much more versatility when playing through something like Nibiru. But I had a second idea for the deck, or for the card, where its second effect would be if your opponent special summons a monster, you can special summon Blackwing Dragon from the extra deck, grave, and or banishment, ignoring its summoning conditions. Most of the time, we would already have Blackwing Dragon in the banish zone because we would special summon out an Assault Dragon. So this, I wanted the field spell to give versatility and being able to only have to play one Blackwing Dragon. So we would constantly always have follow-up with shuffling it back into the deck or special summoning it out on the field, ignoring the summoning conditions, to be able to proc things like our Feather Whirlwind, or to give Chinook the chance to be able to send Blackwing Dragon again to make another Assault Dragon. I wanted to continuously keep Blackwing Dragon in rotation between the Banish, the Grave, the Field, and the extra deck, with having follow-up like Vada, Chinook, and Assault Dragon. Keeping everything in rotation, because that's something that this deck extremely struggles with. It struggles with modern day amounts of hand traps, it struggles with follow-up, and then it struggles with beating really anything over that's like 3,500. And if we're talking pure with no Dispotter or Chaos Angel, we have struggle beating anything over 3,200. The idea I had for this field spell was if we special summon Blackwing Dragon, our Engraved Shamal would trigger to grab Chinook or another card back to our hand for follow-up, or Sudri for follow-up, giving a feather counter to Blackwing Dragon, where we have a feather counter immediately, and we can protect our monsters from any sort of destruction effects. While also proccing our Black Feather Whirlwind, where we can summon something like Zonda back to the grave or back to the field and be able to bounce a card back, or summoning back anything we would need for follow-up the next turn, something like Boreas Storm if it was in the banish zone. Or if we needed a Blackwing monster on field to have Sharnga, we can also special summon back Boreas Storm. And then the first idea I had was negating the activation of a card or effect. I think the negate is okay. I honestly really like the second effect, where we keep recycling Blackwing Dragon back onto the field. But either one still kind of gives us the same exact, I guess, interaction, where we either negate a card and have follow-up for next turn, or we what is it? Shuffling Blackwing Dragon back to have it as follow-up for next turn, or to be able to proc another card on the field to give more interaction. But for going on to the extra deck, I believe that Black Wings needed a lot more modern day synchros, or synchros that would help be able to make relevant of older Black Wing cards. So something I had in mind was having a level 7, which would interact with something like Gale and or Steam, because that's something that I can potentially see having in the deck again is Steam. So the idea I had for the level 7 was you needed a Blackwing tuner and non-tuner monster, and it would have no on-field summon effects, but it would have a quick effect once per turn, banish Blackwing monsters, a non-tuner, and plus a tuner. Sorry, that's supposed to be backwards. I wanted a tuner plus a non-tuner monster, so you could have as many non-tuners as you needed. From the field and or graveyard, special summon a Blackwing Synchro monster or Blackwing Dragon. This is treated as a synchro summon. So this would also give interaction with our opponent, where we can special this guy out and then have him for next turn, or have him as like an extender / starter. So something like Gale for effect, or for example, you can normal Gale, activate its effect to special something like Bora out, right? You could synchro these two to make the level 7. And then you could banish the Gale and the Bora to be able to go into like another level 7 if you needed to, or if you already had cards in the graveyard like Vata or Shanga, or I don't think there's any non-tuner level 3 monster that we would use. So you could banish the Bora and the Vata or the Shanga, whatever level 2, and make Borea Storm then. And that would give you a starter, because Borea Storm can banish the Zonda or the Zephyros, or sorry, send Zonda or Zephyros to the graveyard and give you interaction or follow-up to extend your play and make something bigger for a board. But it being a quick effect means that if we were to bring it back on the field for our opponent's turn, we could make some sort of card like Silverwind or something else really to be able to interact with our opponent that turn. And then I wanted to give it a dual effect where the second effect would be during the battle phase, you can banish the Blackwing Synchro from field or graveyard. This card can make a second attack this turn. I was thinking about giving it almost the same exact attack as something like Raikiri, which is like 2600 and like 1700 defense or 1800 defense. Just something to be able to break the board easier and get stronger. Another level 7 I had in mind was if this it would be another non-tuner monster and a Blackwing tuner to be able to make it. So you could also use Gale to make this, or Steam if it was the graveyard. And you can make this card have an on-summon. I was thinking about giving it an on-summon effect of, if this card synchro summoned, you can make this card gain 700 attack for each feather counter / wedge counter on the field, and it cannot be both. It has to be one or the other. Because I didn't want to make it have like 5,300 or like 7,000 attack for game. I don't know. I kind of thought that was like a little ridiculous. It could be both if you had like very little of each. I don't know. It was still just like a work in progress, but it was an idea. I think allowing it to have or gain more attack for each feather counter and wedge counter that we give, so it could definitely have synergy with Full Art Master and Blackwing Dragon and Blackwing Assault Dragon. And then I gave this monster a second effect where if this card leaves the field, you can target a monster your opponent controls, take control of it. So kind of give it like a full Armor Master effect, but still interaction. The idea behind this card was I wanted it to be a board breaker, but also synergize with being destroyed by our own card effects, or if it's left the field by an opponent's card effect. So, for example, if it was like, say you made your board, right? You had a Blackwing Assault Dragon, you had the field spell, Feather Whirlwind, and something like Full Armor Master out, right? And say your opponent like summons a card or a monster, you could then special Blackwing Dragon. The field spell would trigger. Use special Blackwing Dragon from like the banish zone, ignoring your summoning conditions. Triggering your Feather Whirlwind to bring back the level 7 monster, where it can quick effect Synchro Summon. You activate the level 7 effect to Synchro Summon by banishing Blackwings from the grave or field. To make this other level 7 monster, it gains a 700 attack or whatever, however much attack there are counters on the field, and your Assault Dragon gains enough counters where it will destroy the entire field. Your Full Armor Master stays. Everything else is destroyed, but your actually that may not be the case because Blackwing Dragon would have a counter because you activate Shamal's effect. So Shamal would also trigger during this interaction, giving Blackwing Dragon a counter. And you would take that counter off to protect your monsters. Assault Dragon would still destroy, and you could have the interaction. Or you can let Assault Dragon destroy everything, and making this a level 7 monster, leave the field, and you can take one of your opponent's cards. I wanted to give it like a small interaction, but have like deadly impact in the right case scenario with like your Blackwing Dragon or your Blackwing Assault Dragon or your Full Armor Master. So yeah, the idea behind this card was like a board breaker. And then last but not least, the final idea I had was a level 12 monster. I feel like I wanted a level 12 boss monster. And when I mean boss monster, I mean a monster that actually feels like a boss monster. Old school boss monster, like protection effects, interaction effects, and destruction effects. Make it feel like your opponent has to work to be able to get over this thing. But you also have to work to be able to get it out. So an idea I had for this card was to be able to special summon it out, you need a tuner Blackwing Synchro monster plus a non-tuner monsters. And it has the on-summon effect of, if this card is Synchro summoned, you can destroy as many cards as your opponent controls up to the number of monsters used as material for this Synchro summon. So if you use Twin Shadow to be able to bring it out, it'd just be the 2 pops. But if you had the level 7 quick Synchro effect, you could banish as many monsters as you needed to be able to make the level 12, and it could destroy up to 3 or even 4 cards, dependent on how many you used. And then I gave it a protection effect where it cannot be destroyed by card effects, still battle, and it can still be interacted with, and still be targeted. And then if a card you control were to be destroyed, shuffle a Blackwing from grave or banishment instead. So it's not just this card, it's also any other card that you control. So say you summon this card out first and they went to Raigeki you, and you don't have any feather counters to save your board, you can then just shuffle a Blackwing from banish or graveyard into the deck / extra deck and protect your whole board. I wanted to give it a like feather count or feather whirlwind effect, but still make it feel like a boss monster where it's only helping you, right? And then I gave it a third effect, technically a fourth. During your main phase, you can shuffle this card into the extra deck to return a card your opponent controls. I wanted to give it super simple because it already has a lot of effects as it is. I'm sure that fourth effect doesn't really have to stay. But like I said, I wanted to give recyclability to this deck, where you just continuously recycle your cards to be able to bring them back, resynchro some of them back, and then have follow-up for next turn, where you aren't hurting your follow-up, and you aren't hurting your interactions. So those are all the cards I had for today. You can kind of figure out the game plan as it is. You should see every effect on the screen. They're not going to be exact, like, official ruling words, but it's going to be, the similar idea where you kind of get it. But yeah, let me know your thoughts down below, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye-bye!